Good morning. Welcome to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. It's Friday. Doesn't that sound great? Love it when we make it to a Friday in good shape. Weather looking pretty good for Hampton Roads. We do have some issues we're dealing with here in the mid-Atlantic, mainly in the form of a lot of heat and humidity. And guess what? We have more heat for the mid-Atlantic. We'll touch on that as we begin today's edition of the Weather Desk. We're also going to talk about more wildfire trouble in the Northwest. There is more smoke for that part of the country. And we really have some good news in that the crews are starting to make a little bit of progress for some of the fires out west, but there's also a really sad update that we'll have to share with you coming up from one of the California wildfires as well. In addition to those stories, we're going to talk about drought restricting water usage in Puerto Rico, and we'll have again an update on the drought conditions across the U.S. Yesterday we touched on the drought monitor a little bit across the Hampton Roads region, but we'll also talk more about other parts of the country today. In addition, we're going to talk tropics. I'll show you what's happening, or maybe what isn't happening right now for the Atlantic Basin, and then we'll look over to the Pacific, and we have a Typhoon Dolphin that strikes Japan, the southernmost islands in Okinawa. We're going to talk about that. And if you haven't seen or heard, SpaceX had part of a rocket that was floating around the moon, crashed into the lunar surface, so we'll show you that, and they have some evidence of that crash. The crash site will talk a little bit more about that and show you some images. Here's what we have for you, though, starting off with this hot weather we're having. August 1st, 89, that was normal. That's why you see it shaded in gray. 91 on Sunday, 90 on Monday, all that rain on Tuesday, and then the heat built back in. 91 Wednesday, 93 yesterday. Today, tomorrow, and Sunday, all expecting low 90s, mid 90s into next week. The heat is going to go on, so we've got to be prepared to deal with that. As we take a look at our dew points right now, we are in the low to mid 70s. We want you to know it is going to be a very sticky day today across Hampton Roads. Temperatures today up into the low 90s. It's been mostly sunny through the morning in midday, and then you get into the afternoon, and it's still going to be mostly to partly sunny, but just with the heat, humidity, you might see a few little cumulus clouds trying to bubble up. The big news, again, with those dew points in the 70s, it's going to be the humidity. So our feels-like temperatures are going to be climbing up to around 100 at 1 o'clock, 101 at 2, and then 102 around 3 and 4. So a lot of heat, a lot of humidity, and those uncomfortable feels-like temperatures this afternoon. All right, the temperature trend, as I mentioned, will continue. It's going to be very warm here in the mid-Atlantic. We're looking at highs in Norfolk around the mid-90s from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. By the end of next week and into the following weekend, that's when temperatures will drop back below average, more like mid-80s or mid to upper 80s, just to give you that to look forward to. In the meantime, get ready for more heat. And I'm going to talk more about the upcoming weekend in a little bit on the Weather Desk. Want to update you now on the wildfires, and we do have some news to report as we take a look. It's been the Pacific Northwest where we've seen this smoke. It's been a big issue with wildfires burning around Spokane, and crews are starting to make progress now, putting out 3 major wildfires in Washington State. This is a look at the aftermath in Spokane County. So far, the fires have burned more than 10,000 acres combined. As of this morning, the Old Trails fire is now 5% contained. The Autumn Lane fire is 13% contained, and the Fairview fire is also 13% contained. Despite the progress, authorities are pleading with evacuated residents to stay out of the fire zone since gusty winds and high temperatures return to the region this weekend, and it could fuel new fires.
I understand that frustration. I understand their desire for their life to turn back to normal when it has been turned upside down, and there's no visible reason to them for the decisions that we're making. They have not been able to tell me with any amount of certainty that they can prevent a fire that starts up in a wind-driven condition, that we could evacuate some of those untouched areas in a manner that is going to produce no potential fatalities or injuries. We have been very, very lucky with the scope of this last fire and with how quickly it moved, that we don't have any major injuries and we don't have any known fatalities. I am not in the business, and our firefighters are not in the business of introducing people into an area where we won't be able to say that anymore. And if people want to be angry about it, they can get a hold of me.
A man is now charged with arson in connection with one of those wildfires. 37-year-old Aaron Farinacci is accused of intentionally starting the Old Trails fire. According to court documents, he also confessed to setting more than 24 other fires since last year. In California, the Gann fire in Calaveras County has turned deadly. A body was recovered from this burned home in the Angels camp on Saturday. A friend of the woman who lived there says she was a longtime dog breeder and spent years training show dogs, police dogs, and therapy dogs. That friend also says she was on the phone with the victim as the fire moved in.
I said, you got to go. She at that point, she was screaming. And I couldn't understand a lot of what she was saying, but she was screaming, the fire's all around me. That was the last phone call. And I told her, just leave, just leave. Just leave the dogs. You're more important.
The Gann fire is now the second largest wildfire in California since starting on Monday. It's burned more than 10,000 acres and is now 19% contained. Those wildfires are causing hazy conditions across the Pacific Northwest. You see the smoke screen. Drought conditions are fueling wildfires here at home and overseas. Starting this morning, we're going to talk about Puerto Rico. They're going to begin rationing water in 7 municipalities. Those regions will cycle through 48-hour periods without any water. Puerto Rico's governor says the move comes after an assessment of a reservoir showed water levels declined faster than expected. The governor also called for residents in the impacted areas to reduce non-essential water use. All right, we'll turn our attention from Puerto Rico back to the United States and a look at the drought monitor. We talked about this here in Hampton Roads, and I want to take you back July 2nd, about a month or so ago. You saw we were under moderate drought, and that was an improvement from previous conditions. For a while, we were under severe drought. So this is how we looked a month ago. You see some areas under extreme and exceptional drought back to the southwest and off to the northwest. Let's show you where we sit right now. You can see much of Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, northeast North Carolina, no longer under any drought at all, just slightly drier than normal conditions across parts of Norfolk and Portsmouth. Still moderate drought on the peninsula and areas out to the west, but those areas that were in extreme drought have really been whittled down out to the west. That's good news. The region is in better shape, and this does not account for the heavy rain that we saw Tuesday. That will show up in next week's drought monitor. Much of the central U.S. and the northeast in much better shape. Still some dry areas out west, but things are improving for many parts of the country. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the storm outlook, areas that were hit hard yesterday in the Midwest, and we'll have the severe weather outlook for today. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. You can see behind me the radar loop, and this was through Thursday evening. There were big storms yesterday back across parts of the central U.S., and we're going to take a much closer look at the storm outlook for today. But you see those storms rolling through Missouri. These strong storms slam parts of the Midwest Wednesday and Thursday. Take a look at the aftermath in Kansas City, Missouri. Strong winds down power lines and trees, knocking out power to hundreds of people, even blocking some of the roads. The worst of the damage was spread across Cass County in Creekmore, Belton, and Raymore. All right, we're going to take a look at the severe weather outlook for the region, and I want to start off by showing you, again, some storms that are occurring right now. We have flood advisories. Let's take a look at these maps full, and I'll just show you around Manhattan, Kansas. Again, that's where Kansas State University is. They have some heavy rain. There are flood advisories, but just south of that and to the east of Wichita, around Augusta, Kansas, El Dorado, Kansas, we have severe thunderstorm warnings. These have just recently popped up. I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of information on that. And again, these areas, about 27,000, almost 28,000 affected by that one for Augusta. Again, El Dorado, Prospect, and Spring, some of the cities there, severe thunderstorm warnings as we take a look right now. Back across portions of Ohio from Akron back over towards Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we've had scattered showers, some more rain up around Erie, Pennsylvania. And I can tell you the rain there not creating severe conditions right now, but there has been some rain. We've seen scattered showers down across Florida on the Atlantic side and along the Gulf Coast just south of Pensacola, some scattered showers there as well. Again, the heaviest rain right now working across portions of Kansas. We also have some weather going on back across Minnesota. Earlier, some isolated thunderstorm warnings. Right now, no warnings in place there across Minnesota. What about the severe weather outlook? Well, we could still see some severe storms back across portions of the upper Midwest from northern Missouri, back across Iowa into Minnesota and Wisconsin, then back across the panhandle of Texas into New Mexico. Marginal risk there, but I do want to direct your attention to northern parts of Virginia, around the D.C. area, and back over towards Philadelphia. Obviously, Baltimore also in that area. Up through New York City, we have a level 2. That is a slight risk of severe storms all the way up through the Big Apple and the western parts of Long Island. That extends a little farther to the north as well into New York State. Now, looking forward to our Saturday, the only area under marginal risk, that's level 1, back across northern Missouri, portions of Iowa, Nebraska, and into South Dakota. That area expands a little farther to the north and widens a bit as we get into Sunday. So that is a look ahead. We're going to take another break. Coming up, I've got your tropical outlook. We're going to talk about what's going on over in the Pacific. Typhoon Dolphin, it slams into Okinawa. We'll show you more on that in just a minute. All right, welcome back. We are going to track the tropics for you, and a quick reminder, we are still not even close to the peak of the hurricane season. I know it's been a bit of a snoozer so far in the Atlantic, and that is fine with us here living along the coast. We like quiet tropical seasons for the most part. That is a great thing. Every once in a while, you know, you need a tropical system to produce rain for drought-stricken areas and situations like that. But in general, less tropical activity, good for us here along the coast. And as you can see right now, we are just at August 7th in this first week. We've got all of, September and obviously the end of August through September where we deal with the peak of the activity. Now, we also have this very powerful El Nino that is set up in the Pacific, and that creates a disruption to the tropical activity thanks to that elevated kind of wind shear. It's a very hostile environment through some of the main development areas for tropical systems in the Atlantic Basin. That's why as storms try to develop, a lot of times they get really disrupted before they even get going. So that's part of the reason why things have been quiet. Still, remember that Colorado State, the forecasters there for the hurricane season, they're still calling for 9 named systems and 5 hurricanes. I believe it was 1 major hurricane in their forecast. So, there's still plenty of time for that development. And of course, the season runs through November 30th. Right now, though, as we take a look at the Gulf and across the Caribbean, it is very, very quiet right now. There's just nothing going on. Quiet across the main development region. We do have a little wave coming off the African coast, but you see how it kind of dissipates there. And we get some little clusters. That's a very typical situation where you get a little something coming off the African coast. If the conditions are really favorable for development, sometimes you see them develop and track across the ocean. We're still a little early, but we're starting to come into the Cape Verde season or the Cabo Verde season, so we'll start looking to that part of the Atlantic Basin more frequently. Do want to let you know, though, right now the Hurricane Center not anticipating any activity, no cyclone development over the coming 7 days. As we look in the Pacific, the Eastern Pacific's been a lot more active. We still have 2 areas that we are monitoring, both of those only with a 30% chance for development. So again, not great chances, and neither one of these really in a threat to land at this point. If this were to develop right now, the track would most likely keep it south of Hawaii. But that's something that we'll watch, and of course we'll monitor what's going on a little farther to the east as well. That's a look at what's going on right now. As we take a look at the tropical development potential, the 12th through the 18th of August, nothing on the Atlantic side. You take a look here, this region, there's a moderate chance for development, so a little more potential there. And then back over in the Western Pacific, this is where there's actually a high chance for development. And this may be an issue for folks there in Okinawa because you know what? They're already dealing with a typhoon. As a matter of fact, you can see the position Typhoon Dolphin here, located just a little bit to the west of Okinawa. It passed through. Winds still 100 miles per hour, gusting to 140, and that track moving along, eventually a landfall into China, and then making that turn off to the north. So we're going to continue to watch that. As I mentioned, our situation's been quiet, but it was totally different as Dolphin hit the southern islands here in Japan and Okinawa. Take a look. That typhoon brought strong winds, heavy rain, and rough surf for those southern islands, especially around Okinawa. At the time, a Category 1 typhoon forced shops to close and caused more than 500 flight cancellations. Toyota also suspended work at 9 factories. Nearly 260,000 people were ordered to evacuate. Category 1 typhoon means winds up to about 90 miles per hour. As I mentioned, right now it's actually strengthened back to a Cat 2 with 100-mile-per-hour winds. It will make another landfall eventually, but then weaken as it moves over land. All right, we're going to take another quick break. Here's a live look outside. It's finally Friday, the weekend just about here. Coming up in 2 minutes, we'll take a look at your weekend for Hampton Roads. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. All right, you might have heard or seen a little something about this next story. It's been in the headlines kind of off and on this week. A SpaceX rocket floating in space since last year smashed into the moon on Wednesday. Check out these side-by-side images from NASA. They show the before and after. Basically, you had a piece of the Falcon 9 rocket about the size of a school bus hit the surface going about 5,000 miles per hour. The impact happened near the Einstein crater on the moon's western limb, which is often difficult to see from Earth. But there you go. You can see the before and after scar from that impact. All right, back here on Earth, we're going to talk rain chances. Low today. I'm not real worried about it. Maybe a 10% chance, 20% tomorrow. We might see a little something popping. But Sunday and Monday, those chances go up to about 30%. So I do think we'll see a few isolated showers or storms. Tuesday may be a little drier. Again, chances for storms Wednesday and Thursday. Let's take a look at the weekend, give you that preview. I mentioned earlier in the show, it is going to be a hot one. Temperatures around 93 today, tomorrow, and as you can see, Sunday as well. And when you factor in the humidity, and it is going to be hot and humid on both days, it's going to feel more like it's around 101, maybe 102. And again, Sunday, that chance for a few storms. What if you've got plans to head up to D.C.? Chances for storms Saturday, Sunday, maybe a little drier up that way. We also have chances for showers and storms tomorrow up in Charlottesville. Temps low 90s, so you're not going to escape the heat just heading to the north. Back in the mountains, a little bit of relief, especially as you go out towards Roanoke and Ayers, maybe a little farther west. You get up higher elevations. You're looking at temperatures in the upper 80s. Low 90s for Raleigh. You're going to see temperatures in the low 90s for Richmond. Again, a chance for storms on Sunday at Richmond. And down around the southern Outer Banks, we'll see temperatures in the upper 80s. Low risk of a stray shower or storm either day, but generally partly to mostly sunny. So not a bad weekend. You just need to keep an eye to the radar as we go along, and you can do that with our 13 News Now mobile app. If you don't already have it, I'm going to show you how to get it here as we finish up the show. Right now, the Thompson Creek Window Company Sky View showing you the sunshine over Norfolk. We do have mostly sunny skies. Temps close to 90 at the beaches. Pretty good day out on the water as well. May get a little breezy late afternoon east of Virginia Beach. Like yesterday, we could see some gusts, 15 to 20 knots out there east of Virginia Beach. Seas running about 2 to 3 feet. High tide this afternoon at 4:39. All right, right now we have mainly clear skies. We're going to enjoy the sunshine. Temperatures not so enjoyable, up into the low 90s. Few showers off to the north. Very low risk of a stray sprinkle here. I think as we go overnight, mainly clear. Another hot one tomorrow. Maybe a stray shower or storm. And then as we get into Sunday, a better chance for a few stray showers or storms developing during the afternoon. We'll look for some of that. Do want to let you know as we look ahead over the next 7 days, the heat is with us. Mid-90s Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Again, isolated storms Wednesday and Thursday, a little cooler by the end of next week. All right, want to also remind you, you can always get that news, the latest traffic, weather on the go with the 13 News Now mobile app. Just scan that QR code on your screen to download the app now. It's free and available on the App Store and Google Play. I hope you have a great weekend, and I hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Weather Desk. We do it each and every weekday morning starting at 9. We'll see you next time.